following is a Galactic Digital Studios production. This is Sports Central, part of the Closing Tag Network. Yeah. Those dumpster fires are going about as well as I expected. Yep. So, you're probably wondering what I'm talking about, right? Well, as I usually do on Sports Central, part of the Closing Tag Network, I am going to explain. So, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Phoenix Suns, and the Los Angeles Lakers, the three biggest dumpster fires in professional basketball today, are all doing exactly what I expected them to do regarding their coaching situations. So, with that in mind, I am going to get back to that here in a bit, but I did promise some of my friends that I would be dropping this little mention regarding the new Utah NHL team, as they are going to be called this coming season the Utah Hockey Team, or Utah Hockey Club, or something. Well, since I have been so adamant on refusing to call the Washington Commanders the Washington Commanders, and I've been insisting on calling them on this very podcast the Washington Red Command Team, I figured I would do the exact same thing to the Utah Hockey Team. So, from this point forward, until they decide on a name, and I'll explain that here in a bit, the Utah Hockey Team will now henceforth be forever known as the Utah Yet Yodi Team, because we're combining Yeti, Coyotes, and Hockey Team. I know, it takes some time to get used to, but yeah. The latest developments on that is apparently the city and county of Salt Lake, two completely different governments, if you're not familiar with the geography here. And I don't blame you, because it confuses me, and I've lived here my whole life. The city and county governments for Salt Lake recently unveiled Ryan Smith's master plan to completely renovate downtown Salt Lake. Now, this plan is not without controversy and not without some people getting really butthurt. One of the biggest pain points regarding this complete renovation, which would include completely renovating a humongous chunk of downtown Salt Lake to build new hotels, new residential areas, and potentially even a new hockey arena for said Yet Yodi team. The biggest pain point, or one of the biggest pain points, is completely renovating the Salt Palace Convention Center. Now, if you're not familiar with the historical complications with that, the Salt Palace Convention Center used to be the Salt Palace, the basketball arena, which used to be home to the Utah Jazz before the Delta Center was built. The convention center has since been used as a convention center. I've been in it a few times. It's a decent building, not particularly grand or majestic or anything like that, but it's decent enough to hold conventions and whatnot. I've actually been to a few conventions. I've actually worked a convention in that building. That was a lot of fun. But the biggest one that everybody associates the Salt Palace Convention Center with is Salt Lake Fan X, which used to be Salt Lake Comic Con. That's the biggest. That's the big comic book convention here in the Utah area that's held every year. They recently announced that they're bringing in celebrities like Robert Patrick. You remember him from Terminator 2. Let's see who else they announced that they're bringing in. I know they announced a number of names that kind of floored me. Like, oh wow, they're bringing that guy in. I mean, I would bring it up, but that's more of an "Are We Not Entertained?" podcast topic than Sports Central. We're kind of veering off topic here. Another pain point for this Grand Master Plan for Ryan Smith is moving Abravanel Hall. Abravanel Hall is the big concert venue. Not really a concert venue, it's more of a symphony venue in the downtown Salt Lake area. It's where like a lot of the big symphony tours stop by when they come by here in Utah. They usually stop there for like 5 nights or whatever, and you know, it's a big deal. I saw a petition this morning actually that was asking for public support to save Abravanel Hall, because as it stands, if Ryan Smith gets his way, Abravanel Hall is probably going bye-bye, or at least moving to a new building. Now, this whole plan has not yet been fully realized, because right now Ryan Smith is still waiting on both city and county support for this new entertainment district that's going to be taking over downtown Salt Lake. And part of it is also going to be, you know, roads and public transit, which the Utah Transit Authority is probably going to end up being involved. And a massive amount of public funding. That's the big thing here, is that the public funding part is probably going to be not really a nail in the coffin, but kind of a hanging chad, I guess you could say. So that's the update on that. I will probably keep you guys updated on it, because, you know, as much as entertaining as this whole situation is from the outside looking in, I'm kind of living it. Not really, but, you know, I'm on the inside, so I can get kind of like the local perspective on what exactly is going on with this whole entertainment district and the Jazz and the Yet Yodi team and whatnot. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. So on to the reason why I started this podcast to begin with. Well, not started it back in October, but like started it for today. And that is dumpster fires and coaching changes. So the latest update with the Lakers is that they are pegging JJ Redick to be the new head coach for the Lakers. Now, JJ Redick, as a player and as an analyst, is really good. Was good as a player, is good as an analyst. He's very knowledgeable. He knows what he's talking about. And, you know, unlike some of the other hacks on ESPN, he is not afraid to speak his mind. unless, of course, it involves LeBron. Now, the big thing regarding this whole situation is JJ Redick has 0 head coaching experience, which in a vacuum is actually kind of good. If you're coaching or building a rebuilding team, a team that's young, a team that's not going to contend today or tomorrow, but is going to maybe cause some problems 2 or 3 years down the road, this is a smart hire, assuming that's who they get. For a team that has an aging LeBron James, an aging Anthony Davis, a team that has like 0 draft picks whatsoever for the next 5 years, well, 0 first round draft pick control, I should say. There's a difference between having actual draft picks and having draft pick control. I'll explain it here in a minute, because there's another team that's kind of screwed their own pooches. But a team that is getting older kind of needs to win today and has no draft control whatsoever. This is a disastrous hire. There's no ifs, ands, or buts going about this. This is not a good hire for the Lakers. And the reason being is because, again, you're taking a young coach, completely inexperienced, has no idea what he's getting himself into. And oh, by the way, he has to coach LeBron James. So instead of being LeBron's friend, like he's been for the last 3 years, he now has to become LeBron's boss. Completely different story, completely different dynamic. And considering LeBron is going to be going through his 7th head coaching change in his career, yeah, safe to say that I don't envy JJ Redick right now. Because the minute things go sideways with the Lakers, and you know they will, guess who's going to be the first person to be thrown under the bus by LeBron, friend or not? JJ Redick. So, someone actually brought up a really good point. I can't remember who it was. I was watching a whole bunch of like shorts and reels on either Facebook or YouTube the other day while I was doing something else that I won't repeat on air. No, not that. Yeah. Someone brought up a really good point, and I can't remember who it was. And they basically said something to the effect of, you know what? If LeBron can't handle being coached by someone else, maybe make him the coach. I mean, it's not like the NBA hasn't done it before. Lenny Wilkens, back in 1979, was the player head coach for the Seattle Supersonics. They won a championship. Bill Russell, back in the 60s, towards the end of his playing career, was the player head coach. They won championships, plural. So it's not like it hasn't worked in the past. Maybe. Just a suggestion. So that takes care of dumpster fire number 1. Dumpster fire number 2, the Milwaukee Bucks. No, they haven't fired Doc Rivers. One could wish. No, they're keeping Doc Rivers. But now Doc Rivers is blaming everybody under the sun, not named Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, for Milwaukee not making it past the first round. He's blamed the equipment manager. He's blamed the training staff. He's blamed some of the assistant coaches that left halfway through the season. Never mind that they were only hired because Adrian Griffin was there. But all in all, Milwaukee is just toast as well, because just like the Lakers, they don't have a whole lot of draft control. And again, I'll explain what that means here in a bit, because there's only one more team that also doesn't have that. And just like LeBron and AD, Giannis and Damian Lillard are not getting any younger. Plus, on top of the fact that the training staff advised both of them to take the entire first round off after suffering strained Achilles tendons. Now, if you recall back in 2019, I know that seems like a lifetime ago, when Kevin Durant was still a member of the Golden State Warriors. It was actually the last year that he was a member of the Warriors. Kevin Durant suffered in the first round of the playoffs that year what was called at the time a strained Achilles tendon. Well, against the advice of his training staff and the training staff of the Warriors, he decided to come back during the finals against the Toronto Raptors. And game one, as predictable as the sun setting in the west, Kevin Durant tore his Achilles tendon in game one of the NBA Finals. So, and by the way, he also missed an entire season because of that. What the heck is O? So, all that considered, it was probably a good idea, at least in the long run, for the training staff to tell Giannis and Dame to not bother showing up for work, because, yeah, you guys aren't making it past Indiana. And if you try playing too hard on those strained Achilles, you are going to wind up exactly like KD or worse. So, probably a good idea that they shut them down. But of course, that didn't stop Doc Rivers from saying, well, the training staff is the reason why we didn't make it past Indiana. No, the reason why you didn't make it past Indiana is because you have zero bench depth. You have nobody reliable outside of Giannis and Dame. And Giannis and Dame both suffered injuries that pretty much took them out for the season. Which leads me to dumpster fire number 3. The Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns, earlier this week, announced that they have fired head coach Frank Vogel. Dude just cannot catch a break. So, kind of backtracking here. Last year around this time, Phoenix decided a second round exit in the playoffs at the hands of the eventual NBA champion Denver Nuggets. Almost had a Freudian slip there. Wasn't good enough. So they ended up firing Monty Williams as the head coach, which, all things considered, was probably a smart move, considering he's now the head coach of the last place Detroit Pistons. Yeah, and traded Chris Paul to Washington for Bradley Beal. Okay, Chris Paul, whatever draft control they had left whatsoever, and a whole bunch of young players to Washington for Bradley Beal. And Bradley Beal plays literally the same position as their franchise star, Devin Booker. So you have 2 isolation scoring wings paired with an isolation 7-foot wing in Kevin Durant. No interior defense whatsoever because they ended up trading DeAndre Ayton later that summer to Portland in the Damian Lillard trade and got Yusuf Nurkic, which, great scorer on the interior, but terrible defensively. So no interior defense, no point guard play because guess what? Nobody on that team could handle the ball. And predictably what happened? Oh, and they hired Frank Vogel around that time too. So all that, and they end up getting swept in the first round by Minnesota. That was where the Freudian slip was coming in. So Frank Vogel gets dealt a terrible hand and basically is expected to turn it into a royal flush when all he got was like a 2 of diamonds, 4 of clubs, 7 of spades, 9 of clovers, or 9 of hearts, I should say, and a 3 of whatever. And he was expected to turn that into a royal flush. Yeah. And I don't mean to disparage the contributions over the course of a long career of Kevin Durant or Giannis Antetokounmpo or LeBron James, but we are seeing a pattern here. We're seeing a pattern of out-of-control superstars basically trading the farm to bring their friends, their highly overpaid friends, to come play with them. And then the minute things don't go their way, they decide, well, it's other people's fault. It's the executive's fault. It's the head coach's fault. It's the training staff's fault. It's this person's fault. It's that person's fault. We don't have enough help. Well, guess who's the one that told the general manager to trade all that help to bring your friend here? Yeah, look in the mirror for once and notice I am not limiting this whole rant to just LeBron, because this is not a LeBron exclusive problem anymore. Giannis Antetokounmpo has become just as bad, and KD is just as bad. The only difference is, unlike KD and Giannis, LeBron has actually stayed relatively healthy over the last 2 years. So, what's the solution? Is there a solution? I don't know if there is. Now, what I mean by draft control, since I mentioned that the Lakers have none, the Bucks have none, the Suns have none. There's a difference between having draft picks and draft control. And here's the difference. In the NBA, there is what's called the Brooklyn Nets rule. And I'll explain what that means here in a minute. The Brooklyn Nets rule is simple. You cannot trade your first round pick in consecutive years. Period. So say for instance, I'm say the general manager for the Knicks, and I want to go grab a Giannis or a KD or Brandon Ingram or Donovan Mitchell or one of these other superstar players. And one of the things that's going to get the other team to say, okay, we're listening. Here's how we can negotiate this particular deal is by including draft picks. Now there's 2 rounds. There's a first round and a second round. Second round picks don't usually move the needle all that much because aside from Nikola Jokic, there hasn't been that many second round picks in NBA history that have actually amounted to much of anything. So the big gold, the big gold mine is first round picks. So the first round picks are treated like gold. So let's say I'm the New York Knicks. I want to go grab what's a player out there? I'm just kind of picking one at random. Let's go with Domantas Sabonis from Sacramento. Sacramento's basically looking to rebuild, hypothetically, in this particular case. And they're looking to offload a lot of their players, but they also want draft picks in return. Or we'll go with Chicago as a good example. Chicago's looking to offload Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic. And they want draft picks in return. So I'm the Knicks. I'm going after Zach LaVine. Now, draft picks alone isn't going to cut it because of the salary cap. You have to be willing to part with as much salary capital going out as you're willing to accept coming in. So in Zach LaVine's case, I think it's like $35 million a year, which is a shit ton of money. Just give me 1% of that and we're good. So I have to come up with $35 million in annual salary to trade to Chicago to get Zach LaVine. But players like that typically don't just command other players. They're going to command draft picks. So I want to package 2 future first round picks. I want to package 2025 and 2026. You can't do that. You can only do 2025 and then 2027. Similarly, you can't do 2027, 2028 back-to-back. Can't trade back-to-back draft picks or back-to-back first-round picks. And you can only go a certain amount of years in the future when trading future first-round picks. So I think right now the only limitation is that you can only go up to 2031 or 2032. All of that said, Milwaukee doesn't have any draft control whatsoever. They can't include first round picks in any trades until next season. Same with the Lakers, same with Phoenix. Those 3 teams in particular are all coming up on what I like to call the tail end of their current player dominant period. And what I mean by that is LeBron has got maybe 1 or 2 years left before he retires. KD probably has 1 or 2 good years left in him before he retires. Giannis and Dame, maybe 3. So, what can you do? Aside from hope and pray that you can trade one of these superstar players to someone else for more draft control. Honestly, there's not much you can do. Other than take your lickings for the next 3 years and just pray that you don't get completely bamboozled in the process. Case in point, drafting a college freshman from USC who only scores 5 points a game in his entire career. No names mentioned, Bronny James. But I think this is a good learning experience for the entire league on the right way and the wrong way to build a superstar team or to build a good championship contender. Right now, all of the teams that are currently still in the playoffs, Boston, Cleveland, New York, never thought I'd be saying this about New York, Indiana to some extent, Oklahoma City to a greater extent, Minnesota, Denver, Dallas, all have control of their first round picks. Oklahoma City has control of 50 more first round picks than the others, but we'll leave that alone. And they're showing that they're building these teams properly through the draft and that you can build a championship team through the draft. And guys like Sam Presti, guys like Leon Rose. Again, I never thought I'd be saying this about Leon Rose or anybody associated with the Knicks. And guys like Brad Stevens are doing it all the right way. The Lakers, the Suns, the Bucks, all going completely off reservation, and we're seeing the results. So I'm hoping, as a basketball fan, because I'm a basketball fan first and a Jazz fan second. Maybe not even second these days. More like a Donovan Mitchell fan second. And then a Jazz fan third, but, semantics. As a basketball fan, I'm hoping that teams like the Lakers and teams like the Suns and teams like Milwaukee are taking note and really self-examining what they're doing going forward, because what they're doing right now isn't working. And it will be a miracle if any of those 3 teams win a championship before the year 2030. That's all the time I have for today, guys. If you are listening to this on Spotify, leave a review. Reviews are open. Reviews are awesome. If you're watching us on Facebook, like, share, comment, share with friends, share with family. This guy doesn't sound so much like a LeBron hater anymore. He's involving Giannis. Uh-oh. If you're watching this on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. That way, you are notified every time a new video drops. If you are interested in donating, donations are open on theclosingtag.com. That's theclosingtag.com. Donation button's in the upper right hand corner. And if you're interested, much like Roblox is apparently, you are more than welcome to come watch me record these live on Twitch every Friday. Likewise, every Monday and Wednesday, aside from this next week. The Tech Time streams will be airing live on twitch.tv/owlthegeek, as well as every Tuesday and Thursday. Game Stream will be airing live every Tuesday and Thursday on twitch.tv/owlthegeek. I want to thank everyone that has been listening, watching, downloading, donating, doing everything you can to help chug this train along. Your efforts are not going unnoticed, so thank you. And until the next time that I drop one of these bad boys, remember to include your closing tags, and no, I'm not exclusively just a LeBron hater. Thank you. This has been a Galactic Digital Studios production.